IC3, it's just a netting system. It goes on a hoop, so it's just a rebounder. So everybody that did enter that back there was entered to win that. So I ran it back there, and the winner was Mark Schultz. So you stop back there, and I'll get you that. But I appreciate you all entering, and if you haven't entered yet for the free machine back there, get back there, enter that. It's an $8,000 machine. Get it for free. So stop back.
Thanks so much. We appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, guys. Appreciate you being here. There's more seats in the front and for you guys in the back if you want to move up. Hey, I'm very excited about this. One of the things I'm most proud of with what we've done with Rising Coaches here is we've created what we call a DEI Alliance. And my good friend Daryl Jacobs is the executive director of it. And what we've done is we've partnered up with different organizations, different coaching groups. Many of them are represented on this panel. Coaches for Change, Embrace Us, and among others. And we meet on a regular basis, and we kind of try to combine efforts and make sure we're on the same page. And we've accomplished a lot in a short amount of time. Again, something that I'm really proud of and very passionate about. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce Daryl and Jim and let you guys take it away.
Thank you. My name is Jim Tyree. I am a play-by-play host on radio. 34 years. I've done football and basketball in the southern part of the United States. My current team, I am the color analyst for Eastern Kentucky University. Coach Riley, point back there at you. Heads up, thumbs up from EKU. We are here tonight for a roundtable discussion, and these are issues that will affect coaches in the upcoming future as well. It's entitled 1 Year Later, Social Justice and Equality, and to some extent dealing with the pandemic too, and COVID-19. It's been roughly a year since we've heard the names of people such as George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor. And those names have been pushed to the forefront of the American social conscience now. And we will have to deal with these. So let's have an open and honest and frank discussion about it. I'm going to go ahead to you now and introduce our panel that we have assembled tonight. I'll start from the left. Dr. Marcus Bright. He's a scholar and higher education administrator, writer for the publication Diverse Issues in Higher Education, also with the 5,000 Role Models of Excellence Project, and the board member for Rising Coaches. Please welcome Dr. Marcus Bright. To his left, in his first year as head men's basketball coach for the Siena Saints in Loudonville, New York, he led them to the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference regular season and tournament championship in 2019 and 20. 10-game winning streak in that year, the third longest in Siena's 80-year history of basketball. His team was Siena's first ever also to be awarded the National Association of Basketball Coaches Team Academic Excellence Award for achieving a 3.0 or better team grade point average. And he was a Siena alum as well. Played professionally in Italy. This is Coach Carmine Massarello. To his left, head men's basketball coach at North Carolina A&T University in Greensboro, North Carolina. The MEAC Coach of the Year in 2019 and 20. The North Carolina A&T's 12 MEAC wins in that season, the most ever by a first-year Aggies head coach. He's been selected to the prestigious NCAA ACE program, highlighting some of the best men's and women's basketball coaches in the country. Please welcome Coach Will Jones. To his left, the fifth president of Clark Atlanta University. Earned his Bachelor of Arts from the University of Louisville, Juris Doctor from Miles Law School, PhD in Higher Education from Jackson State University. He's received the NAACP Man of the Year Award and the Higher Education Leadership Foundation Lifetime Achievement Award. Dr. George T. French. To Dr. French's left, Senior Associate Athletics Director here at Georgia State, Senior Women's Administrator, Chief Diversity Officer, LGBTQ, ESPN Plus color commentator, for women's basketball, two-time All-CAA basketball player herself here at Georgia State, female student athlete of the year while she was here as well. Please welcome Kelsey Roziers. And to her left, head men's basketball coach at Voorhees College in Denmark, South Carolina, has built successful high school programs all across the southern United States, won Coach of the Year awards from such entities as the AJC, the Georgia Sports Writers Association. He's coached in the World Basketball Association and the ABA, coached a few NBA players. Please welcome Coach Cabral Huff. And the gentleman to my right is the executive director, as we mentioned a moment ago, for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Alliance for Rising Coaches. He has been a basketball coach at every level you can imagine and been successful at every one of those levels. He's now a college basketball analyst on the ESPN family of networks. I got pretty firsthand knowledge about how well he does his color analyst position. My friend, Coach Daryl Jacobs.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, panelists, for joining us this evening for this great and terrific discussion we're going to have. I want to welcome all the viewers watching via live stream and you in attendance today. Over the last 18 months, we have witnessed many social injustices in our society, the most significant one being the killing of George Floyd, as well as unprecedented virus in COVID-19, which showed the disparity in healthcare, economic resources, and opportunities. That not only affected the world of sports, but also affected our labor force, our commerce, and our higher institution of education. This also brought to the forefront athletic organizations becoming better educated and more aware of social justice issues impacting the world of sports. We have seen a rise in anti-Semitism, Asian hate crimes, the continued racial unrest, and of course, gender violence in our society. So I'll start with the first question, and I'll start with Dr. French with this question. How did the George Floyd killing affect you personally?
Well, personally, as a man of color, incidents of racial inequity are nothing, of course, new to me. But to live long enough to see the social changes over a number of years what was more disturbing to me than anything else. I went to private schools all of my life. As a matter of fact, for my high school, out of 400 graduates, only 4 of us were black. So I had no problem interacting with my white brothers and sisters at any time in my life. From law school or PhD work, they're there. Live on the same streets. We worked in the same corporations. So it was what I consider to be, honestly, a very civil culture and society. And I think some things raised their head and they've lifted their heads in the last few years. And it was something I just was not prepared for as an overall society. As individual incidents, you could always tell a white brother that's going to have a problem with a black brother, or a black brother that's going to have a problem with a white brother. That's going to happen in isolated incidents, always. That's going to happen. But the numbers that we saw were particularly disturbing to me. When you take the numbers of what occurred on January the 6th in our capital, any analyst, you all are analysts, you all are sports analysts and other types of analysts, any analyst on television told you that had those been Black Lives Matter, you would have had so many bodies dead in the street that you wouldn't have been able to deal with it. But because those were not Black Lives Matter, we saw the injustice. And that was a huge injustice, not on the country club level of Birmingham or Atlanta, but on the level of the Pentagon not being able to respond to the Capitol being under siege because the right individuals did not pick up the phone because of political ideologies. Those are the things that really hurt me, that were the remnants of George Floyd. the actual case itself, the incident itself, it's not anything that's new. What's new is technology. What's new is telephones and everyone having them. If we would think in our minds that this is something that's new in our country, we're wrong. It's just called on tape now and camera because of technology.
Kelsey Roziers, I'd like for you to address the same question. Being an officer for diversity within your system, how did the killing personally affect you?
So it really put me in a place of reflection. So I'm married to an African-American woman. I have biracial kids. My brother-in-law is 6'10", has been pulled over for no reason except for the color of his skin. And so this really goes back for me, Trayvon Martin, I think 2014, right? You know, and you can make a list. Months before that, the Breonna Taylor, the Ahmaud Arbery, just down in Brunswick, Georgia. Folks, that's the Wild Wild West, what we saw with Ahmaud Arbery. So when George Floyd happened, I really had to pause myself and reflect on my privileges as a white woman. Because when I walk down the street, nobody knows that I'm married to an African-American woman. Nobody knows that I'm not racist. They look at me as a white woman, and I have privileges that come with that. So it really took me to a place of reflection and how I can continue to make change. I'm educated daily in my household. I have an ongoing note list in my cell phone. George the Bull, Antebellum. I mean, the list goes on and on of things that I needed to do my research on. And I live with somebody that's African American every day, and I still had to educate myself. I don't have all the answers. I'm part of panels like this to learn and educate myself, so I can help educate our student athletes as well. So it really was a time of reflection for me and what my white privilege really enabled me.
Dr. Marcus Bright, how did it affect you?
Well, I think that it made me think even more about the role of sports in America and the role that it could play in addressing social inequities. And, you know, it really brought even more meaning to the work I do. I taught at 5 universities, but I left last one, UMass, to go and run a dropout prevention and mentorship program called the 5,000 Role Models. We have 8,000 boys of color in Miami. But I thought athletics is just so pivotal. And I call it, I've written a lot about it, I call it the athletic lottery. You know, those that get to play for you all, and especially in any level of college, they're lottery winners if you look at the numbers. Not to discount their hard work, but just the small percentage of people, and it's even smaller now with the different rule changes. But you have so many, particularly boys of color, who aspire to play college or play professional sports. And sometimes the mass media marketing of a few lottery winners can mask the overall conditions, the overall predicament of community, particularly communities of color. And you see that, one of the life-changing moments for me, when I was at FIU, I was over academics. You know, y'all know how y'all had a student-athlete academic center for football and basketball, and so many of the kids, there's a famous high school down there called Miami Northwestern, produces like the most NFL players, and Teddy Bridgewater and Amari Cooper, and you name it. But it's in an area called Liberty City, and there's just an area called Overtown. I mean, you all are familiar with these communities, but we'll project a few lottery winners and just ignore the conditions of the masses of the communities, right? But you all as coaches have so much potential because you all have the heroes of those communities, and you have an opportunity to invest in them and to build their capacity. And they don't have to be policy experts, but they can be conveners. You know, you can be if the Alabama had any issue in the state of Alabama that you want to address. You can. I don't want to pick out anybody, but you can use your convening power to bring people to the table to address issues in the communities where you get your players, right? Because they're heroes and they have a short window. And so I've just, the guy said, burn the boats. I think I've done that a lot of times, and I'm still burning boats. Adam called me, I actually wrote an article saying why the NCAA players should boycott the NCAA tournament. until they get the name, image, and likeness passed. And yes, it's going to upset the status quo. It's going to be a lot of additional work. We don't know how it's going to be implemented. It's the Wild West out there right now, but the bottom line is it's the right thing to do. Because for generations, there's been a transactional relationship where players are getting scholarships and books, yes, but then they come back to communities that are economically marginalized, that are mass incarcerated. There are more black men incarcerated in America, over 700,000, than women all across the world. That blew my mind. Women all across the world, over 4 billion women, there are more black men incarcerated in America. So what's going to happen? So the question that we ask ourselves is, when we take off the basketball jersey, when the ball stops bouncing, and you have to go back to the community, what impact have we made? And sports is a tremendous vehicle because of its positionality in our communities and in America to make that kind of change and to be a catalyst for the change that we need to see.
I'm going to move to a new question. This one, I'll start with Coach Massarello. Coach, how was your institution? And basically, you can go in a direction of your area, the basketball team, athletics, however you would like to approach this, but how was your institution affected by these social justice issues and to some extent the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, I think you can look at it twofold, right? Obviously, I think with the murder of George Floyd, and I thought it brought a need to acknowledge and also face the race history and then where we are in this moment in time, in the present with this race history, right? And we're all, especially us white people, we have to make sure we're not dropping that torch, right? We want to make sure we're continuing to light another torch and educate one another. And I found that as a leader, not only could I speak for my players and have their back and show them I love them, but now you're having all of these issues that have been in the past that now are caught on cell phones and that are on mainstream TV, and you have a leadership at the highest level of the government that is not being a leader to those words that I take pride in, right? Being a leader of a program of young men and leaders of young women, and a leader in my community, my obviously area, not only in trying to be a leader in today's society, but you want to make sure that message is being heard because people are looking up to you.